community is the compass, built not of sameness, but of voices varied and vibrant, stitched together in a quilt of care and resistance. Let difference be our strength, not our division.
Well, good evening, and thank you again for tuning in to Stevenson and Yates. We are politricking on a regular basis. We're here to bring you the news, the local news, the news of the day, what's going on with Trump and everything else that's going on around the world. We'll try to get that to you in 30 minutes. So my name is Stevenson, and my brother Yates, boom, he's at the door. What's
How you
happening,
doing,
brother?
brother?
How you feeling this evening?
Hanging in there, brother. How about yourself?
I forgot to hit the doorbell. Oh,
Oh,
there
there
you
you go.
go.
Oof.
Yeah. Ashe, as we always say.
I
Ashe.
share, brother.
And as usual, we like to start off with saying something that we're grateful for. So, my niece, my niece, I tell you, she's been in a bad way for a minute or two. And today, she actually told her niece, her aunt, she said, "Happy birthday."
Oh,
And
excellent.
so she hasn't been able to speak, haven't been able to feed herself the whole nine. But today, my sister called her and she said happy birthday. So that was a blessing for us. So that was one of the things I have to be grateful for. How about you? What's happening? I heard you had a great weekend.
I did have a good weekend. I was down in the Carolinas. I went to visit a friend who's dealing with some health issues. So I have to keep her in my meditations.
Right.
I have a sister who's dealing with some issues. So I'm grateful that, both of them are still here, uh, doing well. And that, I always believe that, the power of the transformative power from the ancestors. So the
Hmm.
power to heal, the power to renew. So I'm grateful for that today.
Right. If anybody like to give us a call, the telephone number here is 908-899-3089. You can always pick up the phone, give us a call. You have something to talk about, or while you want to join into the conversations that we're having, join in, be our guest. We love to hear from you. Also, leave us a like, a comment, or you can subscribe to the channel. My name is Stevenson. This is my brother Yates. I'm the host. He's the co-host, and we are politicking. So let's get it on and popping. So this week in politics, I've been listening to Trump. Oh my God, what a man! Whew. So he thinks that he's the peacemaker. He's gonna stop everything with Ukraine and Russia, and he's gonna control that, and Putin is gonna, in return, I guess, reward him. What do you think of that?
Well, I heard him say this morning, I listened to MSNBC, and he said that since his presidency, I think the most recent presidency, he stopped 6 wars. I'm not sure what 6 wars he's talking about,
Ooh.
but of course, this is Trump, and Trump does not have um, a real relationship with truth or honesty. But one thing I will say about Donald Trump, and there's so much that can be said, and most of it isn't very flattering. But one thing I can say about Trump, Trump is like a beacon that shines light on issues that were, I guess, I don't want to say hidden. I think people chose to ignore. So what Trump is doing, he's shining this light on these issues, things that Black people, brown people, poor people have been trying to warn America about for generations. We talked about police brutality, and people in this country at times when things were comfortable, I mean, politically, economically, socially, they chose to ignore those issues. For those that were in the middle class, those that were wealthy, they ignored the poor. They ignored programs that supported the poor. In fact, they spoke against them. We talked about the fact that this country was never a true democracy.
Hmm.
But as long as you were getting what you needed from America, you didn't bother to think about your fellow man. America is a very selfish society. As long as I got mine, I don't care if you have yours.
Mm.
Well, now that Trump has fundamentally changed this country, people are now beginning to realize things that we, Black, brown, poor people, have been saying, as I said, for generations. And now they want to come out, they want to protest, right?
Well,
Well, understandable. I think they need to know that these protests, I think very shortly, will turn violent.
I think so. And I tell you, this is an old story. If it's not about me, well, I didn't give a damn because it didn't
Right.
affect me. It's the same thing like with slavery. As long as people weren't affected by it, they turn a blind eye to it. So they're doing the same thing now. But let me ask you a question. As ignorant as Trump seems to be, he's not doesn't seem to be a very intelligent man. 6 failed businesses, the corruption, the whole nine. It doesn't seem like he has the intellect to pull off the things that he's doing. I think someone else is pulling his strings because he doesn't seem bright enough to get away with what he's doing.
How much intellect does he need, right? If you are, say, the leader of a particular village,
Mm-hmm.
and you can read on the third grade level, and the other members of the village can't read at all, then you sound like a genius, right? Because you can pick up the book, and they don't know if you're reading or not,
Mm-hmm.
right? Their belief is that, oh, he's reading to us. He's telling us what's in the book. You don't know because you can't read it for yourself. Trump said he loves
The poorly educated.
the poorly educated.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what that translates into is Trump doesn't love the poorly educated. Trump loves their condition, the
Mm.
condition where they don't have understanding, where they're not socially and politically in tune. He relies on that ignorance in order to get a lot of these bills passed, in order to
Mm.
change America. And because people are so ignorant to the facts, and because people have such a strong belief in him, we now are entering, or I should say entering, we are now an authoritarian society.
Yeah, I'd say that worked good for the general public. Let's just say the general public. But I mean, the people that are around him on a daily basis, a lot of them not ignorant. They're not unintelligent, but they seem to allow him to get away with these things and continue to get away with them. Is it because of their prejudices?
That's part of it, but I think a lot of it is political expedience. A lot of these folks are afraid to anger Trump.
Mm.
They're afraid that if they do step outside the box and they come against Trump, speak against some of his policies, um, him in particular, talk about him personally, some of the things he's done, the enrichment of his family and things of that nature, he's afraid that they will not get his support, that he would do things like he's threatened the primary members of the Republican Party, those that have angered him. In fact, right now, Susan Collins, I think she's a representative of from Maine.
Mm.
Now, Trump is grooming someone else to run against her simply because she doesn't want to fall in line like the other Republicans and just kowtow to Trump and allow him to do whatever he wants to do, regardless of if it's illegal, violates Constitution, or state or federal law.
Mm. So what do you think the Democrats are doing about this? Like people, let's say, like I don't know, just within our state, how are we combating this? Like a Maureen Madden or Tara Probst some of those people that are down there in Harrisburg that are fighting. Surprisingly, I know those two are fighting for us. But what do you think the other Democrats are up to? How do you think they're combating this situation?
Actually, I think the Democrats aren't doing much of anything. I think they're sitting back and I think they're waiting. I
Mm.
think they're waiting for something, for that red line for Trump to cross, right? That will um, erode his support. One of the big ones right now is the Jeffrey Epstein files, right?
Mhm.
That's still haunting Trump. It's going to continue to haunt him rather, because there are so many people across this nation. I'm talking about MAGA uh, supporters of Trump who were told, listen, if I get reelected, I'm going to open up those files and I'm going to let you know who's in those files. I'm going to expose this evil cabal for the evil that they've committed against children across this nation. Now all of a sudden, there are no files. And if you're still looking for files, then you're ignorant, you're stupid, you're not very good people, and you're doing the will of the Democrats. Well, Mr. Trump, it was you that introduced the idea of Epstein files. It was you that promised to open them. It was you that appointed Pam Bondi as the Attorney General. And it was her that said they were on her desk.
Yep.
Well, where are they now?
And even I believe even if they show them, it's going to be redacted anyway. So you probably won't be able to say what's going on in there anyway, because anything about Trump, they'll make it disappear, as everything else that's going on about Trump. But even I still say, regardless of what Trump did within the Epstein case, he's going to get away with it. Look how much stuff he's already gotten away with. That would have put the normal person in jail. Right. Just imagine if Barack Obama had done half of what this man would have done. He would have been in jail without a doubt.
Or dead. But, Trump is a whole different case, right? Trump is the subject of Trump is much deeper, right? But, for the Democrats, I think the Democrats are playing the long game. Trump now has claimed all of this for, and let's be honest, it's authoritarian power for himself. What happens now when Trump leaves office and a Democrat is now elected? Now you have a Democrat in power with unprecedented power.
That's right.
Something that the Democrats could not have hoped for or dreamed of. Now they have it at their disposal because Trump opened the door.
You know what the Republicans will probably try to do? They'll probably try to go back to the Supreme Court and have it overturned.
Well, I don't know if they'll be able to do that, right? If you open the door, well, the door, it's like Pandora's box. Pandora's box came open, all of the ills came out. We can't just put them all back in there, out there now. And these powers that the president now claims for himself, well, again, Trump is 79 years old and poor health. Is he going to make it 4 years? And then, of course, you have J.D. Vance.
Lord.
Vance, right? Is probably as big a threat as Trump is to democracy.
Worse, if not worse.
Right. Because he is one of the people behind, or put there by the Heritage Foundation, which, as we know, is the people behind Project 2025.
Absolutely. Probably behind so many other things that are going in this country. I know they getting the credit for the 2025 report, I'm sure that there are so many more things that they've had their hands involved with, along with the Koch brothers and so many others that changed the way the way we live in this country. I'm sure they have.
Well, yeah, and when you ask about the Democrats, you have to understand, right? And this is my belief, that these two parties work hand in hand. You have the right wing and the left wing, but it's all the same bird, right?
Right.
You are arrested and you're taken in for questioning. There's going to be two officers that are going to question you. One will present themselves as the bad guy. In this case, the Republicans. The other will pretend to come to your rescue. In this case, the Democrats. They're both working for the same side. We just have the impression or the belief or the perception that there's a real difference. Well, let me give you an example. Just, I think Friday, a bill was passed. I think it's House Resolution 8554, 8544. Passed through the House. There's Democrats, as you know, in the House. This bill is providing funding and basically maintenance for former members of the IDF.
Yes. What'd you say that bill was? The bill was the 85?
It's either 8554, 8544. Just recently passed, pushed through the House by the Speaker, Mike Johnson,
Okay.
that is going to provide support for former members of the Israeli Defense Force. Now, in this country, healthcare is being cut for veterans. Facilities are closing. There's staffing shortages. But now American tax dollars are going to go to provide for former members of the IDF. What did the Democrats say about that? Did they vote it down? Problem is, most of our elected officials have at least one thing in common. They take money from APAC, ADL, JDL, or from other members, other factions of the Israeli lobby.
Hmm.
So
I
whenever
guess,
bill is presented, it always passes.
you know, it may sound a little silly, but I tell you, I know, I just feel it. I guess in a way, I guess in some way, I could say that they're all a little maybe under the table-ish. They'll take $1 here or two. I can't say all of them because I really don't know them personally, but what I just feel this way is that I feel on both sides they're taking a little something. But my deal is leave a little something for me.
Well, you know what? It's not a little something. They're taking huge amounts of money from the Israeli lobby, some of them into the millions of dollars. That's why we cannot have a democracy when our foreign policy, domestic policy, is being shaped in Jerusalem and not in DC. We are fighting wars to protect Israel. We are arming a rogue administration that is killing innocent men, women, and children. Most of the people that have died since this so-called attack by Hamas have been children. And if you go on, if you look at some of these, if you listen to some of these Israelis, they're saying, well, we have a right to kill their children simply because generations later will come seeking revenge.
That sounds like some mafia-ish.
It sounds like what the Nazis were doing.
Yeah.
Right? Extermination camps. And now we have these people that said they were the victims of Nazi atrocities committing the same or worse atrocities in Gaza. And they've already said that
they call it Hamas. How much of Hamas could be left? I mean, you know, I don't really think Hamas is so much of a as a people. I think it's more of an idea.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. In Gaza, right, in the occupied territories, you cannot have a weapon. You have no means of protecting yourself. So how in the hell is Hamas getting all of these weapons? We blame Iran, that Iran is providing Hamas with weapons and funding. How are they getting into Israel?
Well, didn't we back Hamas? Didn't we back Hamas and a few other these people, these terrorist people?
The fact that we have created and funded these terrorists or so-called terrorist organizations. Al Qaeda was created by the CIA, and Hamas, if you do the research, you'll find that they were created by the Israelis because you have to have an enemy. How else do you justify this takeover, the genocide and the takeover of all of Palestine? And Netanyahu said, we're taking it all.
And they're taking it all too. That's the deal, is that they're actually taking it all. They're taking the entire Gaza Strip. They actually, yes, they have committed genocide. Okay. Now, I guess I can say that's my opinion because of where we're at. But yeah, that's my opinion. Yeah, they fucking committed genocide. Excuse my French, but that's what they're killing people by the thousands, by the tens of thousands, children, women, men. They don't care. As long as the people are in their way, they're making a clearance. They're clearing it out so Donald Trump can come in here and build all these beautiful buildings for them.
Well, you know, I'll tell you something, right? Right now, there's still this summit in Alaska between the Russian President Putin and our version of what we call the President Trump. Well, what came out of that? Essentially, there was no deal. The war continues. And, you know, here's the thing. Who's really in control of this argument over when the war should end and how it should end? The reality is It's the defense contractors. We're
Really?
still selling weapons to Ukraine. We're still providing Israel with weapons, and someone is providing Russia with weapons,
Mm.
probably the Chinese. So as long as there's money to be made, they don't care how many people get killed.
Hey, there's always been money made in war. We know
Right.
that. There's always been money. There's always bin profit off war. I mean, we can go back not that far. Dick Cheney, you can say that, right? There's always money to be made in war, and these what these people are doing. So maybe they're trying to prolong it a little longer than what it has to be. Based
Well, yeah,
and here's again, when we say the military contractors, who the hell are they? The billionaires, the millionaires of this
right.
country and of around the world, you could say.
Right. And they're making tons of money. And as long as their stock prices remain high and they're making these enormous profits, these wars are going to go on.
Mm.
Trump talking about he's stopping wars. These imaginary wars, like the imaginary genocide in South Africa. He goes on TV and says, well, I did this and I did that.
He did
But
Jack.
we have to understand that in this country and in many countries around the world, the president is a figurehead. The president is dictated to by people behind him who tell him or her exactly what you're going to do.
Mm.
If you deviate from the plan, then you might end up like JFK or his brother.
And thus, that's what I said. I brought you back to the beginning. In the beginning, that's what I was telling you. I believe he's too ignorant. I think he's not very intelligent. Yes, we know because of his status, he can manipulate and alter the minds of the average person to get them to think whatever. But in reality, I really believe there are other people pulling this man's strings that are much smarter than he,
Well,
that have more something more sinister in mind than what's going on.
well, all of them, all of the presidents, for the most part, have those people behind them who are manipulating them to basically do things that are not in the best interest of the American people or the world for that matter. Let's be realistic. After 9/11, it was determined that it was Osama bin Laden who had committed this crime.
Right.
Well, now we know or should know Osama bin Laden had nothing to do with it, right? We should also know, and even our intelligence agencies made it clear that they could not find a link between Saddam Hussein and the attacks on 9/11. Well, next thing you know, the president, George W. Bush, says, well, Saddam Hussein must have saw him. Why? What threat did he pose to America? After the first Gulf War, his military was wiped out, as well as his stockpiles of weapons. We knew from day one there were no weapons of mass destruction. And after the mass destruction of Iraq and the Iraqi people, how many weapons did we find? Over 1 million Iraqis died, and that was just in the war. Afterwards, more than almost 600,000 starved to death, most of them children, because of the sanctions that were placed on the country. Why did we do this again? Could it be because Israel saw Iraq as being a threat? Could it be that we bombed Iran because Israel said Iran poses a threat? Are we bombing away Yemen because Israel says, well, Yemen is a threat? A threat to whom? Certainly not to us. So why
Mhm.
are we doing this? Why are we, the American people, funding benefits for Israeli soldiers when Americans, there are homeless veterans in this country, veterans who can't get into a doctor, veterans who are struggling to get their benefits, but we're paying for benefits for Israeli former soldiers. Something is wrong.
Something is definitely wrong in this country, especially you go down to DC. They want to turn that. Remember, I told you not too long ago that he wants to declare martial law.
Right.
That's what he wants, and Washington D.C. is the testing ground. Now he's talking about he would do away with the homeless. Where the homeless are gonna go? If you don't want to go into a shelter, which I can understand. I mean, I've actually worked at a couple of homeless shelters, and I can understand this. There's a crime that takes place within a lot of the homeless shelters, and then people are afraid. They got kids, they got whatever, for whatever personal reason, they're afraid to live in the shelters, so they end up living on the streets. Now, the way it seems to go in this country, if you're black, it's a crime, and if you're homeless, it's a crime. They'll put you in jail for being homeless. It's illegal. And now this
Right.
cat got soldiers and whatnot, soldiers and federal police, because I guess he federalized them. Federal police running around Washington, D.C. If you drop a cigarette on the ground, they're willing to put you in jail. You do jaywalking, they put you in jail for the smallest offenses. So again, like I'm saying, this is a testing ground, and this is what he wants. He wants to declare martial law so that he can be actual king or the dictator that he wants. Because when 2028 comes around, he's talking about he's still going to be in office.
Well, he has to declare martial law, because you have the midterm elections next year. Right now, there are so many Republican seats that are vulnerable. The Republicans right now are not being well received by their constituents. Some of them being booed right out of the buildings
Mm,
where they come to give these town hall meetings.
mm.
So with that sort of response on the constituents, how likely then are they to vote for these people? And now we're talking 2026. By 2026, many of these cuts will have been affecting people that counted on Medicaid, Medicare, food assistance programs will have lost those. And these are the people that you're going to say are going to go to the polls and send you back to Washington, even though you've taken the food off my table. You've cut my subsidies. I don't have a job, right? The jobs have gone overseas, right? And for Trump, the mass roundup of brown people and black people as well,
Mm-hmm.
if you remove them from the country, okay, a lot of people are saying, giving Trump a lot of credit for getting out illegal immigrants, or what's called illegal
What
immigrants.
a joke.
But even if you got them all out, what jobs are you creating
None.
that are going to put people back to work?
None.
And I'm not talking about working in the field, doing a job that only the immigrants wanted to do anyway. I'm talking about jobs that pay well, benefits, secure jobs. Where are
Uh,
they?
we gotta have to pick this up on the other side, Black. You can see it says we'll be right back. So let's make sure we get this out of the way, and we'll pick this up on the other side. Hold tight.
Hi, we're Chantel Davis and Brian Davis. We own Willie Mays Place and Legacy Vines Winery, located in Gilbert, Pennsylvania. We're open Wednesday through Saturday for dinner and wine flights and really delicious Southern comfort food. Come and join us. We'll happily seat you, your family. We have a beautiful farm-to-table garden, as well as 2 therapy donkeys named Freedom and Friar Tuck that you're welcome to come and visit. Give us a call if you have any questions or would like to make a reservation, and we look forward to seeing you.
Hey, yeah, have you guys still gotten a chance to get down there yet?
No, not yet. I keep saying I'm
giving
going
us-
to go. I'm going to have to, just, get
Yeah,
down there.
I think I got some business to take care of this weekend, but I think when we come back, I think you and I and maybe Hope will go sit down and do the team thing, and we'll sit down. Maybe we'll have a dinner or so. Bring our missus. I'll bring my missus. We can sit down and chit chat about our future here. Right on.
Sounds good.
All right. Let's bring us back to where we were. We were talking about the immigration situation and how this man is snatching up brown people and
Mhm.
black people and Haitians, and that goes from the
Everybody,
Haitians to everybody. And he's clearing out
right?
this.
Everybody whose skin is of a darker
So
hue.
what happens when we get rid of all the people that he says are not supposed to be here? What happens then? Do we become I don't know. I want to say a white country, but a lot of African Americans were born in this country, so we're not naturalized. We are citizens. We were born into this. We weren't, this wasn't inherited to us. So we were born here. So what happens to us and all the other so-called Americans? How about the Italian Americans and the German Americans? Anybody, the people that did not come originally from this country? What happens?
Well, I think, as I said, right, people are shifting away from Trump. A lot of it because of Epstein. However, if you get these people out as he's promised, but along with that, you have to create jobs, meaningful jobs, and they're not being produced. So for them, it'll be half of an equation. Okay, you said they were taking our jobs, right? That's what we get from, right-wing radio program or state networks like Fox, placing blame on the immigrants. Okay, now the immigrants are gone. Now where's the jobs you promised? Where is the improvement in the quality of life that you said would happen? Where's the prosperity that you said would happen, that you would create? Where's the freedom that you said would happen in this country? Where is the end of the war that you said you would end on day one? So after you remove these people, okay, that's half of it. Okay, now where's the other stuff that you promised you would give us? And if you don't, it's only going to erode what's left of his mega base.
All right, I guess you can hear the music, brother. So it'll be about that time, and we're gonna probably pick this up next week. So thanks again for tuning in, my man. Like I said, it's always good to have you here, and thank you for participating in the shows and to the network. Okay, right on. All right, my name is Kendall Stevenson. Again, we're coming to the end of the show, so thank you again for you guys for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. We hope that you were informed this evening, and we hope next week we can inform you again. Okay, tomorrow is Thursday. Thursday is a good day. No, my bad. Tomorrow is Wednesday, and Wednesday is always a good day. So tune in tomorrow. Tune in Thursday. We have some good shows for you. We're always from about the same time, between 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock. Well, we pretty much have something on. And if you get an opportunity to go check out Aja Moyer, she is one hell of a singer. So look her up. I'm sure she's online, Facebook or Instagram, on all of your social networks. All right. My name is Kendall Stevenson. I was with Ronald Yates, and peace.